Hey guys, let's have a conversation around my mind, my body and me. My mind and body and me. So just thinking, feeling into the body and the mind, being aware of it, and then whatever you have to share, fascinated about your mind, your body and you. This is my brain just sort of follows through that thinking. It comes to even distinguishing between the mind and the body sometimes. You know, like there's a physicality, and then, but when I want to reach for a cup, there's just a synchronicity. It just happens. I have the idea, and then the body follows through. We have these incredible bodies that just constantly and continuously do things that we're not even paying attention to. And I've just been looking into the mind and body recently and just having a real good look at different times when there's a synchronicity or a flow, and other times where there's a little bit of a catch. That makes sense. I feel that more when I'm exercising sometimes. I'm like, oh, that was easier yesterday than it was today. What's with that? What creates the differences?
Well, I don't know what creates the differences. For anyone else, I guess, than myself. Sometimes it might be a mental aptitude, or feeling good, or not having done a strenuous day the day before. What you ask of yourself and your body and your mind, because everything has a level of fitness, right? You have a level of fitness in your mind, a level of fitness in your body. And, you know, some days if my mind's a bit stretched, it might be gooey the next day.
It's interesting, eh? I would even, like, with, if I don't have so much water in a day, I really notice it probably more the next day. Strangely enough. And yet the brain needs so much water for that whole, it's not just the brain that needs water, it's the whole body that needs the water.
So last night I decided to rotary hoe the garden for the first time. I dug it with the digger first. It's quite a big garden, and I rotary hoed it, and the rotary hoe has a mind of its own. And for anyone who knows what they look like, you know, with a set of self-driving with wheels and a motor and the tiller at the back. And the tiller at the back is going twice or faster than the wheels, you know, it's like, that's how it works. And when you hit something, it leaps out of the ground and propels itself forward. So you're using a totally different set of posture, strength, attention, so that you can hold the thing straight when it has a wobbly. I suppose much like some people who have their kids on a what do I call those things, on a lead, on a harness. And today I'm like, what's going on with my body? And it really knows that it did something that it's not normal.
Yes. Yeah.
On that level, at the gym, at instances of when you've really trained a muscle, you know, you tear your muscle apart and it actually heals back together, making a bigger muscle. That's how muscle builds and grows. And so, you know, if you're still feeling something from like 3-4 days later, you're like, man, I must have really done good. And once you've been training enough, that becomes a satisfying feeling. And at some levels of the mentality that, this is when I was, you know, in my terms, bodybuilding, and the mentality that if you're not feeling it like that, then you didn't train it hard enough. And then I started training different differently, not just a heavy weight, but just differently. And then realizing that your body creates a memory through that repair process. And that's just at a physiological building of a muscle training. Like you can when actually boxer also you made you said after a couple of days of going for a good walk you could see the difference in your legs. Chan commented on when you're working out with how fast your definition came back through. And I just believe that's a body muscle memory,
Absolutely.
a physical muscle memory, because all of a sudden the muscle's like, okay, yep, back into it. I remember when I was living with grandma and granddad, I was like, 18, 19, and really before I got into gymming, and I'd be doing like little workouts at home, and granddad would be like, yeah, that's good, boy, that's good, really good work, proud to see that you're doing that, you do it now, you work hard now, and no matter what you do in life, you come back to it, and that your body remembers it, and it gets back in. You can build size now, and then you can lose it, and your body changes and develops, but you'll always have that memory. And I find that really true even now. Do a couple of press ups in your body. First 10, it's like, what are you up to? After that, you can just pump them out, and it's like, okay, but giving yourself the break so your body remembers, and muscular remembers. And that's just at a physiological connection level for advantage of training.
Yeah. Now, definitely adding on to that and comment, definitely over the years, I've always exercised in some way, somehow. The variance of it's changed and changed and changed up and changed up and changed up. For years and years, I didn't go to the gym. But I was still doing my forms of exercise. When we went back to the gym, it was in support of my daughter at the time, and I was a little nervous. I was actually a little nervous to go back and do that kind of exercise again. And so I had a conversation with myself. I had a conversation with myself, and I was like, I want to really get fit and flexible again. That is but I'm not going to punish myself like I used to, because I used to be the gym bunny punisher, if that makes sense. Years and years before, it was all about punishing that muffin or punishing that thing I'd done. And said this particular time, I decided to be really present with my muscle and really present with my stretch or present with whatever I was doing, and actually make the best of it. So my approach was quite different. And what's really interesting, the body did come back quite quickly to that and responded quite well. What I could feel when I was, let's say, just warming up on that walkery thing, where you just keep going and going and never get anywhere, it's hilarious. I could literally feel the people beside me, the differences. Some people just doing it for doing its sake. And I know those moments myself. Other people just there to extend themselves beyond what they've done, like their own best personal something. I'm making these up, but you could literally feel their approach to the apparatus. And it was quite refreshing to just go, yeah, I'm really pleased I chose for me what I was going to do, because it's easy to get swept up too with what's going on, or be pulled down if someone does speak back on another machine, to sort of go back to their pace, or to try and catch up to their pace if they're communicating. Like Chan might be running on the machine beside me, let's say, and I've decided to do a fast walk. There are different energy to deliver on that. Does it make sense?
Sounds really eerie-fairy. It does make sense.
It sounds really eerie-fairy.
It does make a lot of sense. And I think that's that, in a lot of ways, the natural competitiveness that a lot of people have, that you feel, so, and I just so people always want to get back to where they were, back to and in a way, I've done this heaps, is they don't want to move forward into, right, they want to go back to. It's always, I want that again. I want this again. I want that. That was awesome. I liked that.
Mm.
And I think it's almost like like a drug hit, but I think of it like your lasagna that you make. Just amazing. I remember as a kid just being like, oh, and even now I'm still like, oh, but it's always wanting it again. It's always wanting more. It's always wanting it the same. And I think the muscle is a lot in the same way, because it's wanting what I had, or wanting what they had, or wanting that stuff. And in a lot of ways moving forward into it, but actually recognizing if it was what you had, you know, as a younger person, being a lot slimmer and being what it was, not being able to take all the things that make you now, and move forward with that.
Well, it's quite an effort. Sorry, Shanen, if you would just jump in. I love the way Alex is explaining that, because it made me remember when I had an operation, quite a significant operation, and I couldn't, so it was a stomach operation, and the recuperation time to that was not overdoing it. Like the muscles the muscles just weren't connected. They'd literally been cut. And I had a chat with the nurse, and she said, well, movement will help you heal faster, but you've got to be really careful. Now, the first night after the operation, actually the first 3 days, but that first night I remember the most, is my legs and my body and my balance and my everything was different. It wasn't familiar to me at all. So I'd go to take a step, and I couldn't lift my foot off the ground to step. And I'm like, but this is my tummy. This is, but I couldn't actually lift my foot. I'd be scuffling my feet. So they were a scuffle movement. And there's no doubt about the fact that my body was sending messages to my mind, and my mind was freaking out, because it was like, oh no, this can't be right. This is whoa. And so then emotional things came through, and I want to share this because it was just fascinating, where the emotional mind-body connection was just not familiar, out of whack. And gently and slowly that night, I just kept moving and moving and moving. And I went back to bed, and then the next day, my whole absolute thinking was move, get up. Getting up was horrible. It was not nice, but just moving. And when I was standing, and then I'd get this little sense of, oh, that feels a little bit better. And then there'd be build on that. And then over the next 3-4 days, it was that, okay, now I can walk, I can lift my feet up. Now I've got that kind of movement, but I wouldn't be able to turn or twist. And so over those recovery period of about 6 weeks, where I have to be very careful, I can't exercise, I can't do any of that sort of thing. The exercise was simple walking movement as everything started to nip back into play. Go on from there, and I'm like, okay, now I'll start stretching and moving. That was a whole nother thing. Doing actual physical stretch or exercise moving, it was a brand new teaching of myself. I had a familiarity of what I wanted to do. I had a concept, and my body had to relearn with these new conditions. And then I'm sharing this as it ended up being wonderful, because something I hadn't challenged myself for in yoga, which is a full back bend. I hadn't even approached it for years and years and years and years and years and years, and wouldn't, because I just didn't trust myself. But now I can do it. Now this is really interesting, because I began to gently trust myself more and more, even with those conditions. And the journey has been long and worth it, if that makes sense. Has been long and worth it. So that's the recovery point. When I went into having this thing that needed to be removed, I would try to do and be everything that I was trying to do and be before, and suffer great pain from it, but was ignoring it. That can't be right. That can't be right. And so I might go for a decent walk up a mountain, let's say, and my recovery time for my body would be days longer than I should expect it to be. And it was because the toxins were being released at a different level too. And I again knew something wasn't okay, but I wanted to override it. I wanted my mind and my body, no, can't have this, can't have this, can't have this. This is not it. I'm just going to work harder, or I'll work around it. So I got lots of workarounds, which didn't make the problem go away. Does that make sense? Yeah. There's a share of just those changes that can happen. And yet the power of the body to reorganize, to restitch itself into or reconnect, or whatever it does, when some major muscles in the stomach have actually been severed with a knife. Yeah.
It's amazing, like, for body repairing process, like especially at a bone level. So they always talk about 6 weeks. So from my understanding is 3 weeks, even at a muscular level and skin level, 3 weeks is the actual stitching that the body does for itself, that healing. Then the next 3 weeks is that firming. So the 3 weeks creates a stitch, and the next 3 weeks creates a firming of that. And then that enables the okayness of movement to really start after that.
Right.
Like when I broke my toe 6 weeks before nationals, and I said, like, what can I do? And they were like, you got to put your foot up for 6 weeks. You can't do anything. And I just wasn't having bars of that, sit there and just get angry and agitated and want different. But then, after 5 weeks, I just decided that. And my bone's different from that decision, but it's what I have to live with now, because it was the best decision at the time, best suited for purpose. Go dance. So yeah, there's heaps of different stuff, eh? But yours is at a real extreme level. Like, yours is beyond extreme.
It was just a good example of, being able to be fit, but then having to really work it out. And
wanting like your mind, because it all starts at your mind, I think, before anything, but wanting your mind to override your body and actually not,
And just how much the core affects everything. That was the beautiful, real learning for me, is just because my core had no stability in certain places, even my balance and walking was off. It's like, wow. Yeah.
So what happens? We know how to build muscles. We tear them, we exercise them, we train them. Obviously, we can't tear the brain like that. Brain's a muscle, needs stretching. So what happens when you try and apply the same theory? It's not, well, for some people it works, maybe. For some people not. I don't know.
I challenge that, because I think that's what the brain is a muscle, and when treated like it, like, you're not going to physically tear it, but you stretch the thinking capacity of it.
And emotionally, some people break. That's a tear.
I see the link.
Like it's something. It lets go. Like
So if you go back to the so this is plasticity, is the brain can change. It's not actually hardwired. So this is old science now, but so it's not actually. So the leaps of thought connect in, and therefore create these little threads of thinking. And if a massive change occurs, it would kind of be like a tear, because that connection's not there now. You can't keep that. Let's say something's really significant changes in your life, and you normally go down a path of thinking, but it's not there now. That the future, you said it beautifully, Shanen, the other week. The future's not going to be what you thought it was. That would be like the tear. So then I guess the mind goes down a place and it goes, it can't do that leap, and then it has nowhere to go as a concept. So then it tries to make sense, and during that process the emotions, the chemical releases would be different, therefore they'd show up differently in the body.
Because like from a mind point of view, if you read some literature that is new information and contradicts your values, and it's proven, you know what I mean, like you're stretched, and the chances are you can't unread what you've just read, and especially if you see it in application, and then somewhere along the line you've got to have a little scream. How does that show? I mean, like, and then you share it to someone else, and then share it to someone else, and start changing whole worlds and stretching minds, and to see common sense in something which someone's presented that fits and deletes your version. I mean, sometimes if you don't want that, that's like, what are you doing to me? Right? What are you doing to me? That's a version that has happened. I think that has happened for me. I think it happens for a lot of people.
Oh, it's definitely happened for me. I actually remember sitting in a room, it was a training room, it was master prac for me, and I was sitting there and I was given some information in such a way that I just went, oh no. Oh, that means everything. This was how I took it. Everything in my life has been a lie. And I went with a friend of mine down to the Rose Gardens, and we both sat there at lunchtime, and we're like, oh no, F this. Oh, this is stupid. No way. We couldn't even talk about the scenario because it was just like, that was just information you couldn't ignore now that you knew it. It was actually like one of those in some teaching that's called the dark night of the soul. It's like when everything that you knew has just gone, all the lights are out, all the power went off, and you're just sitting in a dark room going, what now? And then of course eventually things rewire and you choose a different way. Now knowing that information, so yes, I've definitely experienced that.
Yeah, from what's feasible to what's real to what's practical to how we make meaning of it, the whole journey. I mean, from a physical point of view and from a mental point of view, I've worked with a few people that on the outside it seems impossible, in which case that's why they're doing their job, because the people who come in to watch it don't do it.
Is that the circus stuff?
Circus stuff, man in the bottle. This little guy this guy crawled into a bottle, and it was just a cylinder of probably about 800 high and about, 500 across with an opening door. And he was the same height as me, and he was a bit thinner though, obviously, but, jumped in the bottle, and another guy was, sword and dagger balancing and stuff like that. And it's, the entertainment value is there is for people who don't have a conception of even being able to have where you'd even start to learn something like that. And so their minds get stretched in a safe way.
Watching?
Yeah. And some might go home and try it, I don't know. That's not my department once the health and safety's dealt with and they've left the tent. Well, that's not true. I suppose we always did care about how people are, but it's experience and change of mind. And then I love it when magicians give away their own tricks. I like that, partly because, it's an illusion. And then behind the illusion is the way they do it, sleight of hand. And that's funny because, like, the brain just doesn't see it until it's in black and white in front of them. It's, then you go, oh, that's easy. And until you see it and they give you the secret, most people's brains just go, wow. and then they get a bit more information because someone shows them. And there's a couple of young fellas on YouTube at the moment that are just debunking lots of magic tricks, and they've turned that into their magic trick. They're only young, like teenagers.
Yeah. And
they're doing some amazing tricks.
Wow.
And, you know, it's like the positive and negatives. He goes, the guy comes along and says, that's shit. This is how it's done. And then they roll on to the next one. He goes, show me something that's amazing. And he's taking the piss out of each other.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I admire that because, you know, the way that, and they're physical, and they're emotional, and they're mental, and their mind. Like, and so what they must have been through to expand their versions of themselves, being so young, must have been really dedicated because they're very good.
Right.
You know, and you only get good at something by putting the hours into it.
Mm.
Anyone who's a good illusionist has practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Mm.
So what was the other one we're talking about, babe? So mind, body,
And me, you know,
and me.
And Shanen, we've kind of would love to hear from you.
Saying my mind's saying something and my body's saying something else.
Well, tell us about me then.
Yeah. Yeah, and just listening to your conversations and totally agree with what you say about the muscle memory and body reacting to old parts of itself. And I like the concept that Alex brought up around saying that when we go to the gym, we're wanting to get back to our old self. You know, like, go back to being fit or go back to, and I've never looked at it in that way. That was described, and I noticed that, yeah, I want to get back into shape. I want to get back to this size or this weight or whatever. But then it reminded me of an example when you're talking about the lasagna, Alex, and always go, I want to get back to that and go back to that. But in my experience, my kids are similar. They like my spaghetti bolognese that I make. And they always go, Dad, we want to have that bolognese you made at this time. But for me, every time I make bolognese, it's different every time. I think it's evolved. It's evolving, and it's never the same because I'm adding different ingredients or trying different stuff in different amounts. But sometimes, and then when the kids go, yeah, this is a Dad, this, because sometimes I get it wrong. And it's not like how they remember it. And then other times, and they're like, oh yeah, Dad, this is it. This is how we like it, exactly like this. And in my head, I'm like, oh, what did I do then? but I feel in that instant example as when I'm bringing it back to going back to the gym. I think when you go back to your new refined version of yourself, I think you're an improved version of yourself. Every time you go back, it's refining and improving. And seeing that we're on the gym conversation, when the word gym comes up, my mind's telling me no. But my body is telling me hell no. But my me is saying, go for it, do it. Me is saying that, but just in that reference, where times where my mind and my body has been in conflict with each other in terms of stuff. Sometimes when they're synced or when they both agree, like both don't decide to go to the gym, the body saying no, and the mind saying no and the body saying hell no, they get their outcome. they reach it, and when they're in sync and doing whatever it is, I've noticed it's a lot easier to do. Whatever the activity is, or whatever the task is, when they're in alignment or synced, it's a lot easier to power through that. However, when the mind's telling you one thing, the body's telling you another thing, sometimes can get caught up in a feeling of a no-win scenario. It's a lose-lose, and at times emotionally can get caught up in wondering if that was sort of similar in my description and how I heard it. And so it was the example you shared, Karyn, about yourself and your body, and where your mind was telling you one thing, but your body was telling you another thing. But in that situation, I think we end up choosing one of them. We end up choosing to believe, or choosing to go with one of them. And it's just fascinating, just having the discussion around the body and the brain, and how they interconnect with one another. And what we haven't talked about is me and my perception, or my thinking around me is, is that me as in my soul? Is that, my mind, my body, and my soul? Is that what me is to me? And when I look at that, is that my beliefs? Is that my values? Trying to understand, or trying to put distinction between the three, and my passions, my desires. Me. Heart. Not sure in that situation, you've got three parts of yourself, all having their own identity, or having their own set of beliefs and own way of operating. And it's always for me something that I love to explore to, and like you can, when you find out information that are just like, wow, just like, oh, just makes you reevaluate or rethink things. And when you learn new information, how it just blows your mind, and sometimes can blow your soul, or your values. But I always like it for the purpose and the intent of better understanding myself, to then hopefully have a better version of me. And I'm always fascinated to know about the brain, fascinated understanding the body, and then understanding me. Hence why I love these conversations, because it sets off, I know in my brain, it sets off, it fires different neurons in the brain that just fires off to try and make meaning of stuff. Like you say, I like how you explain, Karyn, where, sometimes it cuts off and the brain's got nowhere to access or nowhere to go, and then you end up trying to find, like you said, you end up getting there in the end. Yeah. But you're finding pathways in the brain for it to sort of make sense of, and delete, distort, and generalize information to get a conclusion or create something. But these are just all the things that I was observing and listening to as you guys were discussing, and also processing them in my mind and my body and me. So that's my share I just wanted to add to.
Thank you. The me. Me, which really only points ever to how we're being at the moment, eh? I'm just thinking, every day. My brain's doing a fun thing around me. I said mind, body, and me. And then it's like, me's even harder to find than I. A little bit of a play there.
Yeah, I think you're right. That, when you say me and I find I can identify with I a lot easier and a lot quicker. But when the me comes in, it's like, me?
Me?
What is me?
Where location is that? I goes, right now, I'm going to identify with something. I da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
If I remove the I, and it's just me, it's like, cool. It's almost like this is just a play, because I've not actually explored this, to be very honest. This is the first concept of it like this. Me has no requirement to be identified. Nah.
Well, no, I mean, like if I think about me singularly, it's used in a sentence. It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
What about me? Yeah.
If you're bringing something.
Can you
back
think?
to yourself.
Yeah, well, when you said that, mind, body, and me, when you said me, I couldn't locate me. When you initially said that this morning, I was like, me, where's me? And I was like, you trying to locate where me was, and like for me, it was like I was trying to put it, but I was centre for me, and it was in my heart and for I. But when you said me, I was like trying to locate. Now, where is me? Is me where I was born, or is it me when I'm where I am now, or is it me where I'm going to? And so for me, it's when I start and when it was hard for me to sort of locate the concept of me.
Me, yeah.
It was interesting. It was something that, and is still taking time for me to process and to identify with and to place. I think, and that's sometimes what I find. I try and place things somewhere, and sometimes that's not useful. Placing meaning of something into, for example, into a box or a category, or this is meant to go into that part, this part there, so it's got its parts. And sometimes it's useful, but sometimes I believe it's not useful. And sometimes some, words like the me shouldn't be boxed or categorized or put anywhere. It's just to just let it be wherever I might place me. Yeah, interesting. I've never really.
I definitely haven't explored it quite from that framework. You hear people say, in sort of a beautiful joking way, me, myself, and I, da 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 da, and it seems like that's an inclusion. Me is undefined. Me as a receiver, maybe. I mean, if there's an I, there's a me. Wow.
So if I was to think about the usage of the word me in sentences, it seems to point to a gathering in. Whether it be negative or positive, what about me?
Yeah.
Bring your attention to me.
Me too.
Yeah.
Just trying to locate language, because language will point a little bit.
And when you move to I, you're sort of more opening up I am this.
Yeah, that's the identification.
Can I have that?
What if you just sat inside yourself and present yourself to yourself? Because that's how you present to everyone else effectively of this is me. For really what Shanen says of me, this is me. I offer me to you, whoever that is, and inside of that you can be you by being me.
Yes.
When you look at yourself saying that.
Mm.
Because this is me. This is how I am. This is who I want to be at this time, at this place. Every bit of information, every thing that has brought me to me being here now is what collaborates me to be me.
Mm. I love that contribution.
Mm.
This is directly related. It takes our mind out for a moment to come back in. I was walking back the dog yesterday, and almost always when I'm working with someone or when I'm talking with someone at a therapy level or something like that, I just want to be happy. And I went, for the first time my mind went, they never say I just want to do happy. It's always I want to be happy. And Shan, you did that beautiful link, me be. I'm appreciating this moment, man. Thank you.
I have a thing here that says the courage to be is the courage to accept oneself in spite of being unacceptable. But I read it as the courage to be me, I and myself. Even though deemed unacceptable from effectively a society level, because that's a collaboration of thought, which I really just don't agree with. So just to be you and presenting is just not done as much as. It's done a lot more in what we experience.
I love what you're saying, because another phrase people will use, I just want to be myself, me. Just want to be me.
So then I see that they come from a belief that they can't. Or from a backing ground that would present that's actually
from a framework.
Yeah. At some point, maybe, possibly.
It's sort of like when I hear Alex talk, it's more of a what I would call an Eastern philosophy, or a more of a Buddhist, or more of a not a Western societal conversation.
Yeah.
And that sort of it's just a different style of belief. Probably more of a meditative talk, self-consoling, self-presenting.
Fascinating. If I denormalize how am I eyeing, how am I me-ing, how am I meing, it opens a whole different doorway. And it's less about poof onto the planet. This is what I do.
Could you briefly just say what the denormalizing would be like?
Yeah, so in a really quick reference, many of the English language has a ability to freeze words. And in the freezing, it makes it sort of like as a result rather than a process. So an example is decide or decision. It's like boof. But how am I deciding turns it back into a process. Another one is relationship. It has an end. It's kind of like a frozen word. This is the relationship that I have. Whereas if we turn it into how am I relating, so it's putting the ing on the end as denormalizing something, it turns the process, it turns it back into a process, and therefore opens up opportunity again. So many of our language, especially sort of at corporate levels, or actually just in life levels, our language alone will freeze something into it just is like this. And when we denormalize it, some of the words can sound very weird, because you take off the decision and you put it into ing instead, and you've got deciding. So you repurpose it as it's still happening now. I can make a difference here. I can be a part of this changing. It's a very, very helpful way to just shift thinking.
So that would actually, so what you're saying in actual fact is that all three parts of what we're talking about today is in that process. So
mind, body, and me. If we go, how am I bodying? That's a weird message. Yet our framework will open up to look differently, see things we hadn't noticed before. How am I minding? Again, that changes it into, invites, I guess, opportunity to discover or explore differently. How am I meing? Yeah, that's already my learning from today.
So anybody who wants to try that, try it with a pen, try it in your mind, try it on a bit of paper, try it on a whiteboard. Putting ing on the end of things is a really interesting.
It can be a bit weird,
play.
And it's very useful for me. Meing. How am I meing? So cool. Shane, thank you for
And I think I like the word evolving, and association or linking to meaning. You know, when I hear the word, or how am I meaning, for me that's a lot easier for me to place or to take in, because it's the whole of me. And I like that meaning, because that's everything that I was from when I was born all the way to now, and then it also takes me into the future, and that's the whole meaning process, and saying that it's a lot easier to hear.
So me could actually be interpreted as being static still, and me and giving it movement again to be inclusive, just as a question.
Yes.
Well, if you were to present, it's only at that time. It's like a WAF pro. It's only valid on the day.
Yeah, for at least 5 minutes after you leave the station. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like to give it movement, expands a whole lot.
There's also a sense within that meaning that all of us have pointed to within our own way of it just is. There's that real allowing that you pointed to, Alex, that real accepting, without having to, in a real healthy term, without having to do anything different. Simply a moment of just me.
It's funny because like some of the a question that I've heard quite often, you know, through some NLP terminology is, how do you do you? So how is that different than how do I do me?
Ask yourself that.
Well, I did. I'm good.
Or how am I being me? Taking the doing word away. How am I being me? That's a gentle probe. That's a really gentle probe.
And for anyone who's listening, there's many words that have the ing on the end, and it's very gentle if you look for them. And yeah, how am I being me? That's very gentle.
Yeah, that's gentle.
Well, unless Alex is asking me, which might not be so gentle.
No, it's not asking you. It's asking me. What the fuck are you doing this for, Alex?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Well, when you're frustrated, sometimes, you're just like, come on, reality check. What are you up to?
Mm.
What is me up to right now? What do you want out of this?
Is it frustrating?
How am I frustrating myself?
I'm gonna just leave. I really liked it also. This is my take home of with going back to thought of gymming, or going back to the this is what you presented as a food for your bolognese, Shanen. They're going back to, you use the word refined for an evolving state of moving towards
Polynesian.
moving towards bolognese. But if we just take it to keep it at a physical level of, is it refining? Well, it's refining in a way, but because, okay, I've got to talk from myself. So from having a lot more muscle, and a part of me has evolved to not want that anymore. But if I wanted to go back to that, it's not so much a refined thinking in a way, but it's a collaborative. I've had a lot more existence now, and now I've got a broader thinking to what I want to work to. And as I get into the refining of that, then the refining happens. But you've had a whole lot more life happen to then develop a whole lot more information, memories, thoughts, processing. So then yes, it's a refining at a eventual when you're getting really down to what you want, but that broad idea at the physiological level of wanting what you had, but wanting to move towards that again.
Granddad's a good example on that. So he's always been quite physical, and he consistently, even at over 70, he consistently challenges himself, even though his body has obviously changed. And yet he does things even 50-year-old men really don't bother doing. That's a big generalization.
10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50-year-olds can't do.
Yeah, so, and that's a collaborative bringing collaborative bringing together of, he wants his fluid movement, his vision is strong. He wants to consistently, till the day he passes, be bodily, mind and body sound. So his body is just part of it. His mind is a whole other thing that he attends to as well, always changing and adapting that. So it is refining, and it isn't. It's for him a way of life. Just literally bringing in his over big purpose means that one of his expressions is physical. One of his expressions is the questions he's willing to ask a 18, 19-year-old to find out where are they with things. His curiosity all plays a role in what you're saying. That move, towards bringing everything and moving towards. Right. Nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Your take from today?
Crikey. I'll pass it to Shan.
Yeah, cool. I was just, when you're asking Boxer that, for me, first thing that jumped out to me, my learning is how am I meing? How am I meing? How am I minding? Because when I think of the term mind, it's a fixed, but minding, how am I bodying? Adding the ing onto fixed words in this context here of mind, body, and me, and that's my take home, to reflect and to look at and to calibrate and to refine and to evolve. And how am I minding? How am I bodying? And how am I meing? And that's my take home for this conversation. And just want to thank you all for having this conversation. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
I've found our conversation has had so many parts more in my mind that I've, and our hour's up. So for me, it's like the way the three things come together. I guess just hearing other people like talk about how other things are for them, like I seem to have track my body fairly well. I track my organs fairly well in my own way. So I think today is just really cool, just to be continuing part of being conversations that are inspiring in so many different ways. The little connections, the little, the ability to converse about real life things, like thank you, Karyn, and thanks, Shanen. I don't know what else. Our Eastern philosophy man over here, he did pretty good too. And it's just really cool.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, mine is definitely meaning. It's a very, when I really go into that space, it's quite an interesting space that that filter is going to be a useful exploration for me. So thank you, everybody and all. Well, there we go.